Hello, everyone. I am Sophia Ring, SP Saturn the 7th, and you are watching Anime Egotists. Enjoy!
And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, where our movie probably wouldn't sell out any theaters.
No. It's actually quite depressing in the sales numbers.
Yeah. Anyways, my name's Alex, and I'd like to think that a video game about me would at least, well, it wouldn't be boring.
I don't know. Mine would be, and I'm Richard.
That's right. And when it comes to anime, we all want to see it succeed. We all want to see our favorite shows go longer. But not every anime gets season 2. But in some cases, in hindsight, maybe that's a good thing.
Exactly. We've seen animes that have gone on to have amazing second seasons and continue on from there, and we've seen them crash and burn. And I think today we're here to discuss the ones that kind of crashed and burned.
Yeah, this isn't necessarily, oh, well, what anime deserves season 2 or what anime didn't deserve season 2. That would be, sadly, not all that interesting. And so today we're going to talk about why the heck does this happen? Why do some shows get to season 2 and decide, well, season 1 was fun, let's stop trying?
Exactly.
Anyways, not the usual list, more of a discussion, but let us know, what are some reasons you think season 2 of anime just falls flat? Now, it would be really easy to just say, oh, because it's money, because they realize, oh, well, we already have the money from season 1, and our fans will watch anything. But just saying that's the reason, this would be a very, very short video. But there have to be other reasons, don't there?
Yeah, and I think one of the big ones to kind of start us off is time. A lot of animes don't get season 2 right away, like how, at least how we view a normal season should start. So being almost a year after the original season premiere, they could be 2-3 years between season 1 and season 2 finally premiering, and you've lost the fan base. New stuff has premiered, and that's pushed this show kind of out of the memory. It makes people have to go back and rewatch season 1 to get hyped for season 2, and sometimes that can be a great thing, but a lot of times that's when you get new stuff every 4 months in the anime world. That's a whole issue of having to ask someone to go back and watch a whole new season all over again.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, you can't rush out a second season because then the quality is going to really start to show. And a lot of people, look, I'm not really a big fan of the idea of, oh, well, the animation's worse in season 2 or whatever. But at the same time, like, you have to kind of understand, people do have to understand these things take time. Like, supposedly that's what happened with One Punch Man. Everybody said, watch season 1, then season 2 happened and everybody hated it.
Yeah, I think there's a balance there that should be found, and again, because it's also pulled from manga, I know people need to understand that you can't. We've seen what happens when anime does its own thing because it catches up with the manga, and it's usually not done well, unfortunately, when it's anime original content.
To some extent, yes, but I do think kind of the problem, and we've talked about this before, kind of the problem is the hype. If you get that excited, at some point, the show's going to let you down. It's not the show's fault, but when it happens a lot to where when people get excited, they don't think, what could potentially go wrong? Or maybe I should dial back my expectations. Don't get me wrong, being excited is a good thing. I wish more people would be excited about stuff coming up. But obviously, if you take things too far, then how the hell is the anime gonna please you?
Exactly, and I don't know. It seems like I know a lot of anime when it comes to wanting that season 2, they try to make season 1 end in such a good point that it's, how to put it, it's leaving you wanting more, but it can be a little over the top, unfortunately. They can push so much into that season finale for season 1, whether it's leaving you on a major cliffhanger or they defeat season one's big bad or something. But then they just, when it comes to season two, they may not be able to live up to that. Like, that next arc may be more of a transition in the manga where it was one continuous story. You kind of have this kind of lull, and I've had that happen with a few different anime where season two's more calm for those adventure stories that I enjoy.
Yeah. Like, for example, an anime that we've both watched, Buddy Daddy's ends kind of on the note where I'm like, you know what? Great job. Beginning, middle, and end is great. I don't need season two. If they could find a way to make it so season two is worthwhile, and then I'll be like, maybe I'll give it a shot. But sometimes it's better to just end a show while it's good or great rather than milk it and eventually just make it a shell of its former self.
Exactly. I think that's a large problem that I think a lot of people have with season twos, is that they just don't live up to the same hype that you got in the first season. Is a lot of the issue.
Yeah. And I was we did kind of talk about beforehand having some examples, but it kind of gets to that for certain ones. Like, love Chunibyo and Other Delusions. The first season is really solid. I wouldn't say it's fantastic, but I'd say it's good. A good message of accepting that that it's cool to have an imagination as long as you're able to balance it, and there are people who have your same interests in that regard. The two main characters get together. It's a good season. Season 2 does things a little bit differently, though. It doesn't really focus on that. It doesn't even focus on the relationship of the two main characters. Season 1 seems to do a thing where, as good as it is, the side characters do not feel at all necessary. But Season 2 kind of feels like it takes away the main characters. It's like, it's one of the few times where I've actually said, the main characters kind of don't feel important to the story. And I shouldn't really be saying that.
Yeah, the first example when it comes to a major dip in quality when it comes to season two, I still don't know exactly where to place it, is for me would be Rising of the Shield Hero. And I know a lot of people agree that season two, just something's off about it. I'm thinking it's probably a combination because it was 2 or 3 years and the story was already kind of written at this point between season one and season two. But then I don't know, the next arc kind of feels rushed. I don't know if that's how it's written, but it feels like some stuff's missing. I don't know if they're trying to rush out to get to the big to be able to tell two different mini arcs in this season, because that's what they do. It just, I don't know, it feels rushed in my opinion.
In their defense, I have heard season 3 is a massive step up, and it's like, oh, okay, now the show is really, really back.
Yeah, I really enjoyed season three. I finished watching that one, so I did enjoy season.
Heck, it gets to a point where we don't necessarily even know, did we want a second season? Like, one of my favorite, I'd say this is an actual legitimate comedy as opposed to whatever the hell Gintama wants to be at times. I'm like, Daily Lives of High School Boys might be my all-time favorite straight up comedy anime. It only has one season, and everybody says, oh, I'd love season 2, and I would too. But there is a part of me that's like, are they gonna ruin season 2? Like, I don't know. You'd like to think that if something ends while it's good, you'd like to think it's going to come back and be just as good, if not better. But there are times I think to myself, maybe just High School Boys is enough. Maybe Daily Lives of College Boys or whatever just isn't completely necessary. And the worst part is, the second I would hear confirmation of, oh, there's a sequel, I would immediately, all the hypocrisy would flood in because I'd be like, oh, let me watch this.
Yeah, I've got a couple shows that it feels like I don't know, there need whether there needs to be a season two is kind of questionable, but like I watched The Great Cleric, which again isekai for me, but it's kind of a weird one because it's just kind of finished premiering. They kind of leave it where he's about to go on another journey, but they leave it at that point where, is there more really need to be told? He's kind of unlocked his like potential already and all that. So where's the growth going to come from for this character? How is he going to actually change in season 2, or is this now just a power fantasy and that's it?
Yeah, and you talk about changes, but I do feel like there are times where the anime tries to change things a little too much. For example, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, the first 2 seasons are kind of the slice of life shonen type show, happy-go-lucky with some dark stuff in between, dark serious stuff. But season 3 is a good chunk of it is really dark, and I don't know if this rumor is true or not. But apparently they wanted to change things up because they felt like Jaden's happy-go-lucky attitude wouldn't be useful in a really dangerous situation, which he had that personality when the first 2 seasons happened and he beat the main baddie, so I don't know how much sense that makes. But a lot of people do say, wow, I kind of miss GX when it felt like what it was in the beginning, a kind of slice of life shonen school show. When things got darker, not that dark things are bad, but it just felt like a shift in the tone, and a lot of people didn't really appreciate it, myself included.
I can understand that because I really do feel that the Yu-Gi-Oh! 5, or not 5Ds, GX was that more slice of life from the start. I haven't watched season 3, but it just does seem off. It doesn't seem to be focused more on the relationships between the different duelists that are students or former students at this academy, and from what I've seen, it's more about facing new evil that kind of feels more reminiscent of the previous season or the 5Ds kind of style.
Yeah, and most of the characters straight up die, and people understand why season 3 is not really all my favorite.
I can kind of understand. I think that might be why 5Ds got pushed up to be released instead of season 4 of GX in the US and other markets.
To an extent, yeah, but I don't know. It's just really weird because you think the blueprint is there. Sometimes they don't change enough, sometimes they change too much. And even with anime original stuff, I kind of start to get worried about because look, it's been reported for a while that Lycoris Recoil's getting a sequel, whether that's a movie or whether that's a season. I don't really know at this point. I don't know. Because as part of me is like, yes, I want to see these characters back. Another part of me is like, oh God, how are they going to ruin this? And you would think they're not going to ruin this. They know what they're doing. But when you see other season 2s, you start to think to yourself, it's possible.
Yeah, I actually have one that I watched a while back that I'm like, I really question why it's getting a second season. I enjoyed it a lot, but it's one of those. It felt like it ended, and that's another problem I think with some is getting season 2s and so on and so forth. And that's Banished from the Heroes Party. It pretty much ends with the main character and his sister, who's the hero, kind of reconciling and deciding to live out their lives in the countryside. It feels like that's the ending of the story, that they kind of beat the guy who's pitted them against each other, and it's like, okay, that's the end of that story. They're now trying to live a more peaceful life. But it just started releasing a season 2, and it's like, I don't know if I want to watch that because it feels
How recent did the season start?
It's only 4 episodes out.
Okay. All right, I'm not going to be as hard on that one because because who knows, maybe it plays out and season 2 feels more worth it. But I do agree with the sense of, it just kind of feels like this needed to end. But that's another thing about season 2. I think a lack of focus can be the problem, or focus in the wrong areas. We've talked before about underutilized characters, and we've talked before about characters we feel like, you could have had a little less screen time, and this would have been so much better.
Yeah.
And like I talked about one of the last times, Bakugan, Dan, Marucho, and Shun are all in season 1, and they're pretty prominent in season 2, while all the girls are kind of just like not around. And some of the new characters can be interesting, but at the same time, it makes me go, why are the characters that we grew to love just sitting on the sidelines? Why are we introducing new characters, arguably too many characters, because that happens a lot. And like I said, the optics look really bad that the guys are the ones sticking around to do have all the screen time, and the girls are not around as much.
Well, I mean, we talked about it in similarly with the uh, Yu-Gi-Oh characters with like all the rare hunters that some had some interesting stories and connections and stuff, but they didn't follow up on them in like season 3 and beyond with the characters. So I can definitely agree with there being characters that should get at least a little bit more focus and give us some time to maybe expand the universe a little bit. Maybe whether they're friendly or not in real once they're freed and stuff, it could be interesting.
Yeah. Heck, for all the crap I give it, I don't even blame Psyche K that much for season 2 being kind of lame, because part of the joy of watching Psyche K is that the dub is really, really enjoyable. And when you have everybody talking like they're hyped up on sugar and you can barely understand what they're saying, it's a lot easier to listen to that rather than read subtitles and have to rewind. It's well that and like I said, Teruhashi, we did not need that much of her. She went from a character I'm like, okay, I like her in doses to, all right, I'm starting to get sick of you. Please stop.
I can understand that because I know that a lot of people want them to push characters together and stuff, and that. But
We will talk about that one day.
But when that becomes your main focus to the detriment of what was the main cast, I can definitely understand being frustrated and not enjoying the second season because of that focus.
I really hate that you had to bring that up because I thought I waffled on bringing up this anime. I really did, but it's the perfect transition. I'm kind of upset at you. The anime Oreimo. Now, as horrible as this anime is, I will give it credit that in season 1, it kind of felt like it had a premise to it. I mean, otaku culture is not really all that prominent. Otaku culture is kind of frowned upon. But season 1 focuses a lot on the characters coming together and kind of showing, hey, you're not a weirdo or you're not a loser if you're into this. If you have figurines or have fan fiction or all this stuff, it kind of shows that people who are anime fans can just be regular people. Season 2 stops doing that to focus on the romance stuff. One of those romances being kind of enjoyable, and the other is not so much. So, yeah. Now, the idea of who has to be with who is a conversation for another day, but just, it counters back to my point of a lack of focus sometimes.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, when you completely change the show's, I don't know, theming or story to when you change over to season 2, I can definitely see that upsetting. I don't have any good examples of it, but I know kind of what you're talking about. I'm trying to think if I really unfortunately can't remember what the names of the shows are. Vaguely remembering to do the same or similar thing.
Heck, it especially happens in romance anime because when the characters get together, well, in romance anime, I actually feel like it could happen more because sometimes it's by the end of season 1, the two characters are together, or no, sorry, by the end of season 1, one of the characters realizes they like the other, but rather than putting them together in that moment, they stretch it out, and sometimes that really doesn't work, especially. Like, we've watched sitcoms before. Sometimes dragging out the main romance is really not a good idea, where you could either just put them together or just drop it all at once.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I actually saw an article earlier. I think it was when I first woke up this morning that was talking about some anime. It's something I haven't watched. That's why I don't remember what the name of it is, but it was one of the new ones premiering, and again, it's only season 1 so far, but they've kind of already ruined it in some people's minds because it was like the first 2-3 episodes were all focused on this one singular romance, and like episode 4, apparently it changes to more of a harem. They get one or two more love rivals, and it's like, but that happens a lot between. I feel like between season 1 and season 2, when it comes to some romance animes that get that second season.
Yeah, Nisekoi in particular does a bad job because you have the four main girls, Chitoge, Onodera, Sugami, Marika. All the four of these characters, contrary to popular belief, I actually kind of like. At the same time, though, in season 2, they start adding a couple of other girls. And I'm going to be honest, some of them I don't even remember their names of in the episodes. I'm just like, huh, I don't know anything about these characters. And it gets to the point where I'm like, look, Chitoge is not my favorite character, but she could be getting more. I'll take her getting focus over girl number 5 or girl number 7. And I don't know, it especially bothers me in romance anime because it's like we all know who this person's going to end up with. Why are we making it more difficult? But that's another point for another day in a sense.
Yeah. So I also have another kind of big example, and it's might be the one of the bigger animes that have had major issues when it comes to seasons, and that's Blue Exorcist.
Mm-hmm.
So season 1 is pretty much the first arc, and then it leads to an anime original ending that a lot of the fans of the manga absolutely hate. It does not meet the like the actual story that tell of the rest of this the manga. But since then, they've released 2 different seasons that are the next arcs, and pretty much what they're telling you to do is kind of ignore the last like 5 episodes of the original season and take these as what comes next. And it's being a shonen anime, it probably should have either been they should have waited until it was more closer to completion in the manga, or they should have, I guess, more how to put it, cut the season a little short and waited for the next arc to finish and then go from there, rather than push this anime original content that kind of caused issues. So, but then there's been so long. I mean, I think we were in middle and high school when Blue Exorcist came out originally, if I remember correctly. It was somewhere around then. It was already out by the time we were in college. I know that much.
Yeah, definitely. I guess that is another thing. Anime original stuff. Sometimes I think it can really, really work. Sometimes I actually think changing some of the stuff from the manga can be necessary. But when you make it such dramatic changes to the point where it's kind of unrecognizable, you have a serious problem on your hands.
Exactly. And they just. It feels like they're trying to almost be lazy, and I hate to use that as the terminology, but it feels lazy to just not be willing to wait, or more of a cash grab. So you're going to release this thing that you should be a popular anime, only to cut it short for the fans and not actually end it, which means that they have to go buy the manga or something if they want to know the true ending of the story.
Heck, most of the time the manga doesn't even get released in America, so that makes things even more difficult.
Well, stay tuned for some to talk about that probably.
Sure, why not? I don't have a whole lot to say on that front, but I can make something work. But at the same time, though, it just makes it all the more interesting when it's. I understand in some cases when season 1 ends, the manga ends. Makes perfect sense. But it gets weird when the manga is still going and the anime just stops. For example, I've talked about before, Watamote, another cringe fest of an anime. One season, it has stopped. The manga is still going, and it seems like Tomoko has friends and she's actually progressing in life. But we're not really getting to see that. And in some cases, I understand. The show's a little hard to watch, and it can be a bit of a turnoff. But at the same time, though, it feels super weird just to say, oh, the anime ended here, but the manga went on way further. It's like, oh, seeing this in anime form would be nice for people who just aren't that into manga, which I can understand.
Yeah, another good example for at least, especially the Americans, but even the Japanese, is the Zatch Bell series, because ours gets cut short about halfway through the anime in the US. And from my understanding, the anime also has is an anime original ending, but that is more due to behind the scenes issues between the mangaka and the company that he was
Yeah.
working with.
Yeah, I try my best to give them a little bit of a pass when it comes to that because it's like it's outside stuff. Like with Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, season one, in my opinion, is excellent. And a lot of people say it's fantastic writing. Season two is kind of it's good. I'd say it's even very good at times, but it is a little bit of a drop off. And apparently there were behind the scenes stuff where it's like, huh, where it's like, oh, well, stuff might be going on with certain voice actors. They might have to change scripts in some areas. I try to be a little more lenient with that, but at the same time, it is still a dip in quality, I have to acknowledge.
Now, I'm trying to think if any of the big sort of series like Dragon Ball, Naruto, they're a bit harder to tell any of them having any issues between seasons because usually they're more continuations. They change the opening and that's the new season technically.
Not unless you count, oh, Netflix Naruto season 4, but that doesn't really count in a lot of areas.
Yeah, I always go based on when the uh, intro changes. That's the difference between season one and season two, or so on. And that's kind of the only change. There's usually, but because they continue and there's the same studio usually and all that, they don't have that change that I think a lot of people view as issues with season two.
Exactly. But I guess just really thinking about it, like we talked about, there might be some worries with certain anime getting season 2. We talk about what the problems of it are. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really feel like there's a way to fix it in some cases. Like I said, some of it actually has to do with hype. Like people hype themselves up and get so excited, and what they're watching might be good, but if you hype yourself up too much, that's kind of the issue. But I can't even fully blame them because sometimes if your expectations are low, you're still disappointed somehow.
Yeah, and I'm starting to feel, and tell me if you've had any issues with the shows you watch ending not necessarily in the middle of like an arc, but being left much more open than they used to be. Where you used to get season one, it's over. It may continue, it may not, but we've reached a point where we can say it's ending. But a lot of the anime I watch end with kind of on cliffhangers where they're leaving it open for season two a lot more than they used to. And it's not ruining the season, but when they don't continue or wait, I have that 3 or 4 year wait for something new, it becomes a bit more annoying because it's like, okay, I have to remember exactly what happened.
It does. I've been watching a lot more anime original stuff, so it happens a little bit there, but I'm a little more forgiving in some cases because I kind of think to myself, okay, they have an idea of where they want to go, but it's not fully planned out. I actually think that's a good thing. We've seen before with How I Met Your Mother. Sometimes it's better to go through it and make changes rather than have a lot of things planned out from the beginning. And you can see how fans react to certain things. Do they want to see more of this character? Change an aspect of this character. With anime original stuff, it's a little easier to do. Ooh, now if they start doing a manga after that point, then the jury's out on whether they should follow it or not.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Yeah, 'cause I know that there's a lot of times stories or the authors will reach a point where they told their story, but then maybe they want to come back later and tell another story or continue the story a little bit. Yeah, I can understand where that becomes iffy when they do the original before they've written anything else.
Yeah. That again, like we've been talking about the past couple months. Soul Eater kind of feels like that. At the ending, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even fully remember Medusa dying in the end. She kind of just seems to laugh it off and disappear. So I'm like, okay, is there more to it than this? I don't recall the manga ending like this. The manga, like for those of you who don't know, apparently in the manga, Krona actually does end up dying or going off to the moon or something. It's really confusing, but I don't know. Oh, it is a case of, sometimes it feels like we're supposed to get more and then they stop. Or in Soul Eater's case, we might get more down the. We should be getting more after this, but we're actually getting more before this because we get the prequel of Soul Eater. Not. I don't get the process behind that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's something we need to discuss is when season 2 is kind of a prequel. I know if Soul Eater not, but we kind of get it in Fairy Tale. There's a mini kind of season right before it went on its second hiatus that does kind of a similar the founding of Fairy Tale kind of story.
Yeah, and before Soul and after Soul Eater not, we get Fire Force, which is also connected, but it's also a prequel. Do they just not want to continue Soul Eater? Is it that hard to just be like, you know what? Let's age them up a bit and figure it out from there.
I mean, I guess they're telling the story of the world in reverse.
I I I guess. It's one way of doing it, but at the same time, though, it is a little weird because, like we've said, the first few parts of it are really, really good. In some cases, excellent. And then the ending happens, and I'm like, that's how they're ending thing? Maybe they could fix it with a remake or continue it with a sequel. Oh, we're going backwards. Okay, that's. I'm not writing it, so maybe I'm the dummy.
Yeah, it's one of those that I can. It's really, it's an awkward way of telling it, but it allows you to kind of show elements of the world having been mythology and all that in one season, but here's what actually happened past that led to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage.
So in some cases, is there no hope? Is it just the case of, oh well, the season 2 is probably going to be bad? Because I'm gonna be honest, I can't think of too many shows where I'm like, I actually prefer season 2. So I don't know. Nowadays, I get more and more skeptical as to, season 2. This is probably going to be rough.
Yeah, I mean, if it's done right and more of a continuation of the existing story, I think it works. But as I said, I have issues where we have those 3-4 years between stories, and I know there's other things that they want to premiere, but you making fans wait that long does lead, I think, to issues with that. I'm not saying you have to release it every year, but just let them know, hey, it's going to continue. Stay tuned. We'll tell you when we're going to release season 2. Or I wish there was more commitment. That way I knew which series I should keep in my mind for coming back to when they premiere rather than go.
I don't know. In some cases, I feel guilty asking that because I know the animators and stuff work hard enough as it is. I feel like that, if anything, I kind of feel like in some cases maybe they should take a little longer to like rejuvenate themselves so that you can do your best work. Or I don't know. Oh, in some cases, because like I guess technically we're in season 1. I honestly can't tell at this point. But Black Clover, 150 something episodes, I'm still waiting for more. Like the season 2 itis has not come after me. I'm like, more, please, please hurry, something.
That's the issue with Black Clover because it's one of those. Is it really season 2? It's like part 2 kind of thing.
I guess definitely. Different. Heck, does Naruto, because they went to Naruto Shippuden, does that count? Or Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z? You understand what I mean.
I view those more as a change in parts. You kind of get a little bit of different, like a different opening every like 50 episodes. It's the same song in Dragon Ball, but it's more of they just change who's the bad guy and some of the scenes that they use. So that's kind of where I view the change in the season.
Yeah, and it kind of works. It kind of works the other way around because like we talked about like going from Shippuden to Boruto, but when we were in college and we finished Shippuden, it was like, oh, Boruto's coming out, and it felt like it came out really, really quickly compared to Shippuden. I was like, we just got done with the war arc, and we're all kind of I feel like we need a little more of a break, but it's like, no, we're just gonna just deal with it.
And I think that's led to a lot of the fatigue the Naruto franchise has as a whole, was the fact that that kind of got pushed down the throats. The anime had issues, I think, because I know that there is a manga for Boruto, but it wasn't out yet. So they're trying to go like side by side with it, but the animation was much faster than writing the manga, so it was one of those that they had to add so much filler to the first part of it, and that weighed down Boruto a lot.
Say what you want about Dragon Ball Super, but I at least felt like by the time Super came out, I was like, okay, we've had a break from a lot of Dragon Ball anime. I'm ready to get back into it. But is Super perfect? No, but I actually think it's actually a bit underrated in some cases. But at the same time, you understand, it took its time before coming back. Heck.
Yeah, and right now I'm feeling that there's been enough time that they could come back to that. Because I know the manga's continued. There's at least 2 or 3 arcs that have premiered, and we get a lot more backstory and a lot more connections, from my understanding of the manga, that people have been asking for. So I'm really hoping that once the Dragon Ball Daima, is that the new one that's coming out? Once they tell whatever this story is, that they get kind of back to Super, like whether it's Super Z or whatever they want to call it, it's the next.
Or just make Sparking Zero awesome enough to the point where it's like, I can wait another few years.
Yeah, just something. Dragon Ball is one of those that I feel like could easily continue, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'd say so, but at the same time, though, I do wonder how it would end completely, but that's just me thinking out loud.
Well, technically, we have the canon ending. Canon ending is Dragon Ball Z's ending, which we're supposedly coming up on in Super's timeline. So
I don't really. So does that mean this whole time GT was canon?
no, it's they like to say that the story ends with Goku becoming the master for Uub, and that's the end of Dragon Ball story. But
I don't know
I don't know if it.
I'm not sure how crazy I am about that, but I'd have to do a little more research on it. But just, I don't know. Oh, like we've said before, we'd love to think that our favorite shows are going to get more, but sometimes maybe it's not worth it. Now there are some anime, like I've said before, Osamake. I feel like it was decent, and I don't think it was anything amazing, but I do think it's a case of, I think season 2, maybe it would be better. Or fantastic? No, but I'm at the point where I'm like, my expectations are not that high for season 2. So part of me is like, who knows? Heck, my expectations were super low for Power Rangers Operation Overdrive, and I'm one of the few people who's like, this was decent. Not fantastic or anything, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I do enjoy season 2s when I feel like they've at least connected and flow well with the original season. I'm tired of a lot of season 1s ending pretty much on a cliffhanger, promising a season 2 and then not ever delivering. Because I know I've got several that's like, okay, is this one going to continue? And as of right now, they haven't announced stuff, which can be frustrating. I understand that there's a lot of these animators go through a lot. There's always new stuff that they are asked premiere, so I can understand the wait.
Heck, as crazy as it is, it's weird because according to a lot of fans, when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal, apparently people have told me, no, season 2 is actually better than season 1. I'm like, oh, so it's nice to see that it takes them a little bit longer to get their balance, because I'd rather have a show end on a good note than end on a bad note, but they're very few and far between. Heck, when it comes to seasonal stuff, I actually wish Pokemon would go seasonal. Get like a good amount of episodes, take a break, figure out what you want to do and continue, because what they're doing now, based on everything I've heard about both the quality and the animators themselves, it's not working out for anybody besides the people who are profiting off of it.
Oh, that's kind of disappointing. I was looking forward to something new in the anime with Horizon. So
Yeah. For the most part, I do hear it's good, but I just feel like for the longest time, people are kind of sick of it not being seasonal. Like we'll take like a month off before the next anime starts, but it should just be all right. Do season 1, take a break, then do season 2, take a break. Like you know what I mean. It just seems like if more and more people were well rested and were able to think about what they wanted to do, maybe the series itself would be better. But just through no fault of Horizons, because apparently Horizons is still really good for some people, but just, I don't know. Oh, like just more breaks so people can really think what they want to do next.
okay, and I know that yeah, we've talked about it before with Pokemon wanting like each game protagonist to get their own story, and that could be interesting. Whether or I mean, I know these are again anime original characters that are new, so it would be interesting to see what they could do in the Pokemon world with different with the time to take breaks and develop more dedicated stories rather than okay, they're on this adventure. That seems like it's
Exactly. And it's especially weird because back then we did well, then again, we were kids back then, but we thought, oh no, this is great, this is awesome. But things are really different nowadays. They should be allowed to slow down. They should also be having a streaming service to put Horizons episodes on that's not just Netflix. It's bulking them all together, but that's just me.
we I don't know if Pokemon, yeah, with the number of episodes, they could probably have like a $5 streaming service that just has all the movies, all this anime, and it would be very successful because you could then go and watch everything.
Including Pokemon Horizons, because I can't seem to find that legally anywhere.
Well, it's supposed to premiere sometime next month. It's still a few days before the start of February. So.
Yeah, but Pokemon. I meant Chronicles, like because I don't know what happened to Pokemon Chronicles. It just disappeared off the face of the earth.
Oh yeah. Go buy the DVD, kids.
Good God. But just look. This is not really meant to be a conversation of all anime season 2 is bad. And like we said, sometimes anime season 2 can be like, okay, this is really good, but whether it's too much hype, the quality itself because people are being overworked, a lack of focus in certain areas. For some reason, just a lot of times, season 2, we just look at it and we're like, this isn't quite up to standards.
Exactly, and again, I'm not saying that there isn't a need for a wait. I understand the need for a wait, but the part that frustrates me is when it gets to be, in my opinion, a little bit more excessive. 3-4 years between seasons. As I said, I forget what all these characters are supposed to be like. I know I've got like 4 or 5 that I really enjoyed season 1 and haven't watched it after they got season 2 because it was that length.
Exactly. But we'd like to think that any anime that's premiering now or could be getting a second season down the line, or even a second season that has been announced, we hope it's good. It's so much more fun to talk about anime when it's thoroughly enjoyable and to see that everybody's having fun enjoying it. Or when something's just so bizarrely stupid that we're like, I kind of still want to talk about this.
Exactly.
But I think I don't really have any more to that, but just I don't have that much more to that. Are we ready to close out?
I believe we are.
All right. Our first time doing one of these types of videos where it's more of a discussion, or at least it's been a really long time, but let us know what you guys think. Do you guys think that there's a problem with anime going on for too long, or do you think that season 2s do not come out fast enough? Anything along those lines that we've talked about in this video. And let us know, are there any anime that actually get better with their second season as opposed to their first? Just put it down in the comments.
And are there any kind of topics that you feel we've missed that have caused issues with you for season 2? Be
Exactly.
interested to know about that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Just let us know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that other nonsense. And we will see you next time. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.